But we are here at the start line for the 2025 Subaru Canada Adventure Racing World Championship. Let's hear it.
I'm excited, really excited.
Been waiting for this for 4 or 5 days now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our special task this morning, you are leading the start line. You are traveling this way. You guys are familiar with bushwhacking. You're going corn whacking this morning. You are entering the end of a cornfield. You are traveling through the cornfield. As you travel through the cornfield, there's lots of corn. Each racer has to have 4 ears of corn. There are 6 big bins. You are shucking all the waste product from your ear of corn is going in those 6 bins. Beside those 6 bins, there are 56 small bins. When you shuck your corn, your team has a small bin that's going to have 16 cobs of corn. And then you're going to carry on down the road.
Expedition is in the front, followed by Brazil Multisport, and then Expedition Canada.
The racers have put in a phenomenal shift up this first climb. What a brutal way to start an event.
Good time to start, get warmed up, eh?
We have our team from Brazil.
We are Team Carlos Fuga from Brazil and came here to race hard.
Leading the way most of the way up this climb. Yeah, what a great way to break up a field. We are very close to checkpoint 1 here. It's somewhere here on the left-hand side of the road. Who navigates it first? Well done. Team Novapack. Swedish Armed Forces, close behind in 2nd place.
DC single track, yeah. We wanted them to get a taste of that. We're in Pemberton. This place is legendary for mountain biking. So of course we wanted to make sure that the racers got to experience something like this while they're still fresh.
Beautiful.
So yeah, it was an epic ride. People are coming down and they're coming down fast, but they're smiling. So big grins. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, folks, here we are. We are in downtown Pemberton at CP number 3. From an update perspective, some of the top teams we saw come through, Expenature, Adventura, we saw Team 400 come through, we saw Bones came through, Expedition Canada came through. A lot of those top tier teams are blasting right through here very quickly. So the race is full on, and here we go. So they're getting their first true sense of Canadian wilderness right now in Canadian climbing. It is a long sustained climb up to TA1.
It's good.
Yeah?
The first hour of the trek was pretty hilly. Then I got to CP5 and it opened to a beautiful vista for everyone to enjoy. Really, really beautiful area for the racers to go to. Coming off that trek, Team 400 came blasting down the trail. I know that because I was walking down from CP5. Came blasting full speed down the trail. Followed about 30 minutes later by Safet. Might have been a bit sooner. I want to hold off on that. I do know that 400 did the trek in 3 hours and 47 minutes. I'm pretty certain that was the time. Don't quote me directly, but they did the trek very quickly. And what was interesting was, for the bigger picture of the race, was that by roughly 2-3 hours into that trek, almost 75% of the teams were on the trek itself. So teams made that grueling climb, got up on the ridge really quickly, and had a great trek. And so a lot of teams are in that trek and are still on that trek wrapping up, but way ahead of time estimates. So things are going really well for all those teams.
Really amazing. Truly looks like Canada. All the lakes. What we came for.
We are having a ball. It's very hilly around here.
It is a bit, eh?
Views are worth it. So cool. It's so awesome.
So welcome to Braylorne, British Columbia. Population of 69. They love sharing that with visitors that come here. This is the Braylorne pub. Serves as CP number 11. Teams have to go into the porch in the back to punch. There's a door to the pub inside, and the waitress and the staff have been delightful in pouring water and letting the racers use the bathroom. And the racers are going right back out the door here. It's now 5:30. We're like 90 minutes away from darkness, so they're definitely chasing the sunlight to get down to the paddle of TA3.
We're here at TA3. We've got teams coming in. They're transitioning from bike to pack raft.
They get here, and now it's nighttime. And all of that energy starts to run out of them. Now it's the food and the fuel and the sugar and the caffeine and the gel. What are they going to eat? And on top of that, you're getting onto a paddle. And a paddle is one of the hardest things to do at night because of the rhythmic nature of the back and forth. Teams fall asleep. And this is a long paddle with a difficult portage and a long paddle. So this is really going to be a tough evening for these teams as they go into it.
Well, I mean, we have now started doing this for a couple different events, and I'm really excited. Obviously, we have a great setup here because we're in a nice warm studio while the racers are out busting their tails out there in Canada. And we have an awesome setup here for you. Thanks to the amazing work behind the scenes by Jeff with Adventure Racing Insiders. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you, buddy. And so if you hear me say that we're waiting for our producer or he's saying something to me, just know that's our producer. So
that's me. And if you hear a disembodied voice, that's me too.
Well, so Mary, let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
What a race this has been so far. Obviously it's been kind of chaotic, I think, is the best way that I would describe things. It hasn't been your typical adventure race from the beginning because of some strategy decisions that had to be made really early.
Yeah, I mean, the lead teams were pushing hot from the get-go. There's been cutoffs, there have been dark zones, there have been road closures. I mean, we're used to cutoffs, we're used to dark zones, but to have so many so early and so close together, those lead teams have been pushing. We're on day 3 now, so they've been pushing from the start.
Yeah, I think I saw a video with Heidi where she discussed Estonia has not slept yet. And obviously they are leading, and they pushed really hard to get through this dark zone that is coming up here in about 2 hours for the teams there, because we're 3 hours time difference from them. They have to be off that paddle, off the water by 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. So I don't know where you're watching from. I hope you're watching from all over the world. But that is a huge equalizer, I think, because there are a lot of teams that are not going to get through this paddle that are going to have to be dark zone for 12 hours. Mm-hmm. 12 hours in an expedition race is an eternity, Mary. Have you ever slept 12 hours in an adventure race?
No, never. No, that would be great, actually.
I mean, I've come close to it.
I probably wouldn't say no. Like, okay.
Well, and I know, teams early on, they had the construction cutoff that was really early that kind of gave the lead pack a lead. But it's crazy because there are some teams that didn't make that first construction cutoff that have made their way back. And I think it's because they utilized that extra time they had to maybe get some sleep and then were able to push harder going into that. So we got the tracker up right now. And let's just we didn't do a pre-race kind of discussion about who we thought would be the strong teams. I will tell you that my favorite coming into this to win was going to be Swedish Armed Forces. I know that Team 400 is the reigning champ. I think you and I talked, Mary, about the fact that them replacing two of their team members from last year's race, that's a huge difference in composition and how you're handling things. I mean, if you've ever been on a team where you have to replace two people, like that's really hard to then have the same output.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to admit, Swedish Armed Forces was also kind of who I was rooting for. And Estonia, I was kind of rooting for them too. I'm kind of happy to see them taking over the lead today. Although, well, I think they'll get some sleep because I think teams are going to start to get dark zone soon, so they'll build an even bigger lead, which will let them get their sleep, which is probably their plan, right?
Well, and I wonder though, because like obviously we've seen Estonia in past races push too hard and end up paying the price for it late in the race. So I'm hoping that they didn't overcook it right now in order to get ahead, because if that was their strategy, what we have to think about is the fact that all of the other lead teams are not getting dark zoned tonight. Right? Like if we're looking at the tracker right now, and you're looking of the teams that are going to get through it, you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams, maybe 10 that are going to get through this. The only team that may not, Expa Nature, they may have to like pull over on the side, because if it gets too close to the end of the cutoff, there are 4 places that they can pull off and camp along the way. But I'll tell you, if you've been on the Adventure Racing World Series site, there are some videos and pictures, and one of them was a picture from the side of one of the rivers or lakes that they were in, and it was a huge bear track. That's how they started it. And I don't know how good a sleep I would get sleeping next to the water with bear tracks that size.
Oh, and it's all over the route book too, right? Like the first paddle, they said stay off the north bank because the grizzly bears. This paddle, obviously, they're saying again. And they even mentioned how populated this section of river is with people, but the fact that the bears are still so prevalent. Yeah, no, I don't know how much I'd want to get dark zone. I probably would have been like, we need to stay in TA tonight.
Well, the other thing is like where you might be able to get comfortable in a TA because you have some extra gear, right? You're going as light as possible getting on these pack rafts because you don't want to carry extra. You're probably not taking a sleeping bag, right? Because that's just an extra 2 pounds or whatever, that even if with an ultralight, like you can throw yourself in a bivvy, but in this cold weather that they're having there, I don't know that you're going to stay warm. You're just going to shiver for a couple hours.
Especially along the water, right? We all know trying to bed down along a river, you already have colder air temperatures. Now you have that cold air coming off the water. You're probably wet. I know they're wearing dry suits, but even with the dry suits on, when you start to strip those off, your body instantly goes into this, like, I'm super cold, like shock almost sensation.
Yeah.
And so and 3 days of racing, right? Day 3. Their bodies have already gone through all kinds of stuff.
It's already in shock.
yeah. The teams that have to bed down tonight are going to have an interesting sleep, but these teams are used to it. You know, they probably bedded down in all parts of the country at this point.
Well, and I'll tell you, I'm sure that the teams that are making the paddle or even getting dark zoned might be really happy to just be off of their feet, because let's face it, that was a 45-mile trek section. And even though I think there was only like 2,900 meters of elevation gain over that 45 miles, which isn't a lot for 45 miles, it's still 45 miles on your feet. Like that.
And there's a lot of reports of no water. Did you see? I saw
see that too. Yep.
People were coming into that. which was cool. We should point out CP24. Everybody's planting a tree at the historic Hat Creek.
I think it was more than one tree. I think they had to
Yeah.
like put a whole row of trees down along the creek, which is, look, if there's a great way that we can give back to the community that we're, getting to be in, I know this race is super unique because they're literally going in places where people are not normally in. They've got special permission to enter people's properties, to go in unincorporated areas that generally do not allow like mountain biking, or like if you're maybe a wilderness person, you might have gone out there sometime. But these racers are getting to go and experience those things, and that 45-mile trek is I mean, it's got to be daunting, and teams are going to be happy to kind of probably be off of that. That as we look at the front of the race, obviously like Estonia has been pushing really hard, and they are having an amazing race. They didn't start out in the lead, but they have moved their way. Like the top 5 teams have all kind of gone back and forth, really. I was looking really late last night, East Coast time, and like Bend Racing, 4 Hour Fuel was in 3rd place at the time. And I don't know if I don't think they slept, but maybe, I know there was a video where Jason was talking about a little bobble, but then they started getting some distance between some of the other top teams. And real quick, before we go into anything else, like I want to just talk about a top team that is having a crisis right now. If you can pull up the Vitorade, the Vitorade track for me, Jeff. For Vitorade, I don't know what is going on, but I was just looking at the tracker, and they cut like the last 3 points of their team number 2. And they have now cut this part of the trek, so they didn't go all the way up and then back down, and that is going to put them below everyone else, because all CPs are mandatory, and it's going to show them as unranked here soon, because now they have skipped those things, and it looks like, are they at the TA yet?
They are almost. They haven't crossed the bridge to the TA yet, but almost. Yeah, I initially thought maybe that was like potentially a really smart strategic decision, banking on all those teams that are still on the trek, like having to drop points later. And I was like, well, maybe they think they can make the dark zone. And then I started doing math, and I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
It was like, so yeah, it'd be interesting to find out maybe we can hopefully get some info from whoever's in that TA.
We've got news from, we've got information from the Bend Racing 4 Hour Fuel that the team actually did sleep for 3 hours on the track. So they have banked a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I did think I heard that.
Because they were moving really good, and they had caught up with the couple lead teams. When I saw them, they were in 3rd place. And then I went to sleep, and I woke up, and they were back in like 5th or 6th. And I was like, man, that doesn't make a lot of sense, knowing how hard they are going to be pushing, that those lead teams would gain that much just on a trek. So good. I mean, I think that is going to really pay dividends, especially when you think about that Estonia hasn't slept. I don't know that 400 team has slept. I don't know if Swedish Armed Forces has slept. And so, sleep strategy for these top teams is really going to come into play. I know when the videos have come out from Brian Gatens, first of all, big shout out to Brian Gatens. He is absolutely crushing it in his role as host out there. And we're hoping that maybe he'll be able to jump in and give us some insight at some point on at least one of our broadcasts. But Brian and Heidi were talking about every time they would see people, and they're like, yeah, we're 36 hours and we haven't slept. And they're like, this is not recommended at home. So like, I could not function like that. Like, I am the king of the 10-minute nap anyway. But I can't I can't push that way anymore. What's the longest you've gone, Mary?
Yeah, I was just trying to think about that. Um, usually we don't sleep the first night. We go through the first night, and then I would say we try to bed down the second night, usually like anywhere from midnight to 2. It's kind of one of those things like if we're in a TA, great. If not, that's okay too. We'll like go and kind of as we're getting to that tired, more tired time,
Yeah.
start like everybody start looking for like that'd be a good spot, that'd be a good spot type of thing. And then we try and bed down for 3, 4 hours, depending on how we're feeling. So yeah, that's probably the longest that I've ever gone. Um, yeah, it's taxing, especially as a navigator, right?
Oh
You've
yeah.
already got the physical fatigue that everybody else in your team is facing. But now, if you've been doing a lot of the navigating, you've got so much mental fatigue, and that sometimes is way worse than the physical fatigue.
And I wonder, because obviously, doing this length of an expedition race, and like this course is going to be open for 10 days, but the lead racers are probably race 6-ish. I think was the fast estimate. Um, do you share those roles as navigator in this?
You have to. You have to. I've done one expedition where I probably did 85, 90% of the nav, and one I didn't have nearly as much fun because I was so much more tired and drained, and I didn't enjoy the environment because I was in the map so much. Um and it too, it's so much more taxing. Like it no, you have to share that. You have to have at least one other good navigator that you can kind of bounce back and forth with. Take turns, whether it be like, you do the bike, I do the trek, you do the paddle type of thing. And then rope in those other team members. Give everybody a job. Keep everybody engaged and everybody focused on the task so they're not just following you and feel like they're just, slogging along. Like have somebody keeping a compass bearing, have somebody pace counting, having somebody looking for terrain features and that's so important, especially as they go into these like 4 or 5 day, keeping everybody on the team like engaged in what you're doing makes for a happier team overall.
No, it's funny because like I'm normally the navigator on my team, and then
Mhm.
this last year at C2C, which is a 3-day race here in the United States, um, I had two other really good navigators. And there was one section of the bike where I just handed over the navigation, which I wasn't used to. And at one point they asked me a question. I said, I don't care. You just tell me where to go. And it was so nice to be able to like shut down
Yeah.
and not have to think about like, do I have to pay attention right now, or can I just like pedal and get to the next place and you guys have it? So yeah, I mean, but that extra, stress of being that lead navigator is a lot. Um,
So, just to break in here, I've got a couple more sleep strategy updates. First of all, Bend Racing 4-hour fuel, team number 18. You can see them on the tracker here. They've decided to get a hotel for tonight in Asheville.
yeah,
Oh,
So,
heck yeah.
instead of sleeping on the side of the river, they are here at the beginning of this paddle, and they're gonna sleep. I'm not sure for how long, but
Well, they got Dark Zone. So like that is the perfect strategy for this thing, right? Because like if
yeah.
you can't leave until 7 a.m., like they will not let you. So don't shiver sleeping in a bivy bag, even or in a sleeping bag on top of a picnic table when you can
I laugh because I've done that
exactly all of us have, right? But like
along a river.
like I, we talked about before where I am more of the kind of adventure racing tourism where like while I want to race, I'm also looking to have the best experience. And I mean, Endless this year, James and I, we slept in two different hotels throughout the the race. and got good food when we could. And I mean, think about it. You come into this town, that town looks like it is, got some places where you can eat, and you're going to get real food. You're going to have a chance to take a shower. You're going to have a chance to sleep in a bed. Like, that is invaluable. And so while these other teams are out just on the struggle bus trying to stay awake, I mean, I heard Chip Dodd in a video talk about, even on the first paddle, that one that was kind of on a lake and then a river on the second half of it, he took 4 caffeine pills to try to stay awake, and he was still falling asleep.
Yo, Chip on a paddle, especially at night, it's a bad combination.
I have heard that about him. But if it, yes,
like they slept about 90 minutes on the track as well.
Okay. 90 minutes, 90 minutes is the perfect time to sleep, right? Like it gets you into REM sleep, so you get a little bit of recovery. You're able to, kind of refresh yourself, and you wake up feeling like those of us that are sleeping in our own beds right now, you surprisingly will wake up feeling that way in this kind of race. And I know if we have adventure racers and family members who are like, there's no way you feel the same way. I'm like, no, really, that 90 minutes of sleep is life-changing in a race like this.
It really is. I mean, it's amazing that it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's just enough to make it another 12, 15 hours before you have to think about maybe taking another little nap or planning like a real sleep. And by real sleep, let's be honest, we're talking 3 hours.
Yeah.
We're not talking much longer than that.
We're not talking about the 4-hour fuel strategy right now.
Right. But I mean, good for them. They're probably going to get 2 real meals. I mean, what time is it there? It's 5:30.
Yeah.
They could get a nice dinner. They can get a nice sleep. They'll probably get a nice breakfast. Like they're going to be set.
Yeah. Now, I mean, they're going to have to dig themselves out of a 12-hour hole, actually a 14-hour hole, because if it's only 5 o'clock there, they don't get to start until 7, right? So, but that is a better strategy to me than trying to paddle for an hour and a half to a pull-out point and sleep in God knows where with God knows who around, right? So that
the 3 little bears and not Goldilocks.
Exactly. Like, I don't want to be Goldilocks. I'm fine. Like, I'm perfectly fine doing other things. So being the American contingent in adventure racing, let's talk about the American teams, because it is a lot of fun to see so many American teams here at the World Championships this year. And look, we can't talk about American teams without talking about Bend Racing 4-Hour Fuel. They are having a spectacular race. They are pushing hard. They have looked really great every time we've seen videos of them. So it doesn't appear that anybody is struggling. And they have 3 hours of sleep. So can we pull up them on the tracker, Jeff?
Got him.
And there are a couple things, on that trek. I was trying to get some clarification. CP 26 and 27, which were the last 2 real checkpoints before the TA, that they got onto the paddle. There was some instruction that they were supposed to, teams were not supposed to hug the highway, because there is a highway there. But if you pull up the tracker, and obviously, so this tracker, if you're watching at home, understand that the tracker is going to show kind of not as accurate pathways of teams, because it's pinging every 10 minutes. So, but you see here what they did. They went 26, and they continued down to 27. And Jeff, I'm going to send you a photo just so you can kind of understand, like what I'm reading here. It says, from CP 26, you navigate over land to CP 27. Teams must not travel along Highway 97 between CP 24 and 500 meters north of CP 27. So to me, that says you can't get along that roadway until you're 500 meters from CP 27.
Correct.
But now I want you to look at Estonia's route.
Hang on, I'm just gonna measure this.
Okay.
It's close. Like they took that turn with like almost exactly 500 meters left.
Okay, now I want you to pull up Estonia's. Now, and look, I'm not a race official. We could maybe ask Mr. Wayne Leake, who is one of the referees out there, but there are a number of teams up at the front that if you look at their tracker, they went from 26 back down that road to get back. Say again?
Oh, no, just don't worry about me.
Okay. So they went back down the road, you'll see, and then they kind of hugged the road back down to 27, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we pull up Estonia. And I don't know if that is a violation, and if so, what? Like, what is...
There we go. Sorry.
Time penalty? I would guess a time penalty.
I had to refresh the tracker there. Sorry about that, guys.
I mean,
but
it could be...
Ooh.
It could be a point penalty, but... yeah, that's a good question what that penalty would be.
And I mean that would take a lot of kind of investigation by the race referees, because they're gonna have to pull up all of these guys' trackers. Because if you see what Estonia did there, they went to 26, came right back down to the road, and then hugged the highway all the way down.
400 essentially did the same thing.
Yep.
Not as far, but further than 500, I'm sure.
Yeah. So how much of that is the tracker? Like pinging? I don't know. I don't know how they figure that out. I don't know if they even care. But for those of us at home that are dot watching and seeing these rules, like that stuck out to me when we're talking about the World Championship, right?
Look at sorry to interrupt you. Look at Team 3's tracker along there. Pull that one up. That's a spicy one. They look like they were in the road.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and my question is, like, because we talk about fairness, right? That was one of the discussions kind of early on with these dark zone and construction zones, and like what's fair and what's not. We actually just had this conversation at the United States Adventure Racing National Championship, where some teams that didn't make the cutoff, got short course because they didn't make that first paddle cutoff. And all teams go into these races knowing what the rules are ahead of time. And if you don't follow these rules, then you're subject to the penalty. And then because that goes into strategy. I'm sure with, Jason and Chelsea being race organizers, they look at those things and factor that in to their strategy and how they're going to do it. And that bushwhacking coming down from that could not have been easy. But they did it because it said, don't go along the highway. So it'll be interesting to see if, the race referees have anything to say about that. If there's any kind of penalty, maybe it's a time penalty.
They will now that we've made it a point of contention.
Sorry, Wayne. I just want it to be fair for all those top teams that are pushing really hard. And yeah, so that's interesting. But yeah, at the top of the race, the lead team right now is Estonia Ace La Sportiva, and they are onto the bike section. Swedish Armed Forces finished the paddle, so they should be getting started on the bikes here soon if they haven't already. I haven't refreshed my my tracker. It looks like they're still in the TA.
Yeah, mine's showing no signal for them at the moment.
Okay. And 400 teams should be coming right to that TA any minute. I don't know how fast that river is. Oh, actually, I just refreshed and it shows them at the TA.
I saw a post earlier that someone had mentioned they thought that paddle, or I guess the race director had said that paddle should take about 4.5 hours.
Yep, that's what I saw too.
So,
well, and the next team right there is Ben Racing 4 Hour Fuel. And they are in a really tight battle with Kalis Fuga, who was formerly Brazil Multisport. And I did say it right because I heard him say it on another video. So I'm super excited that I didn't screw that up.
Did you notice I refer to them as Team 3? I didn't even try.
Come on, Mary, be brave.
Didn't even go there. Nope, not gonna catch me.
Yeah, and I don't think they've slept much either. If they have, I don't know. But of those top teams right now, I mean, 400 team got 90 minutes. Ben 4 Hour Fuel got 3 hours. I think that might be an equalizer coming up here to the next, this bike section that they're going to be in right now. And then following right behind them, we've got, I think, a couple of the surprises of the race are the next. Well, I mean, Forever Forest. I don't think a lot of people like had them racing in the top 5 or 6, and they're right there. Sardine Racing has had. It was interesting to kind of watch them on that trekking section after the bike construction because they were one of the teams that made it through. And then I think the team that is the most impressive right now is the Masanga Racing from Copenhagen because they didn't make the first bike cutoff and had to wait at the construction zone, yet they are into the paddle and should get off the paddle before the dark zone if they paddle hard. I mean, these teams have what, 2.5 hours left? 2 hours before they have to get off? So
they're what, halfway?
It's gonna be so close, it's like
What time did they get on? So they were in TA at 13:42. Who knows how long they TA'd for though?
Right. Let's just say they got in and out in 45 minutes, right? Maybe let's give them an hour. That would put them on at 3 o'clock. That's 4.5 hours. So it'd be close.
They're feeling that too.
Oh yeah.
Well, and you have to take into account this is like class 2, 3 whitewater. If they're swims, if they're, that's going to eat up time. They need to be reading the river and really making sure that they're dialed in because all of that's just going to add to their time on the water if they're not careful.
How, because I haven't done like big, like threes usually in like a big race like this because we didn't really have any at Endless this year. Most of those were 2s that were pretty manageable at best. How difficult is that to manage, especially when you're not sleeping?
I mean, for these teams, they've probably seen bigger, water. This is probably like an average battle for them. For some of the back of the pack teams, someone like Visibility, who's sitting, probably mid-pack right now, They're super experienced. They're probably will be super comfortable on this stuff. Yeah. Some of the further back teams, though, may not be. I like a whitewater paddle and I like a whitewater pack raft, but, day 3 of a 5-day race, like I'm on edge, right? You put me in a whitewater and I'm even more on edge. So, it's going to add a different element, but most of these teams are teams that are super, super experienced and paddled whitewater probably all over the world.
Yeah, and I forgot, I lost my train of thought earlier because we were talking about the U.S. teams, and then I went back to the front of the pack. But talk about the U.S. teams, so we have 8, mixed teams that are in the race this year, and then 1 all-female team that is leading the open category right now. That's Lucky Cosmic Confusion, but obviously we have Ben Racing, who's having a great race. And then the second American team is Bones Racing. And they threw Mary Chandler in there just for good measure. And so to an already experienced Bones team. How How do you think they're feeling right now and looking on the race course? It looks like they're roughly, a little over halfway done with that big trek.
Yeah, last I checked, they were on that trek. Their team, they've all raced together a lot. Obviously, Mary's done probably more expedition races than most. I don't know, maybe not Jason Magnus, but um, so she's super experienced and she races with them all the time. I
But she
did see
ran
a
a Bitterade last year, right?
Yeah, and I did you see not to like I don't know, not throw shade, but throw shade. Somebody made a comment earlier that that Bitterade was struggling because they didn't have Mary Chandler.
I mean, look, I can't argue with that because Mary is a freaking powerhouse, and
She just won nationals, what, two
exactly.
weeks ago?
Yep.
Like, and she did it like it was well, she looked like she did it like it was no big deal, which who knows what she was really feeling. But yeah, I mean, they're a strong team and that team's raced together so much. I think they're doing well. I think I saw a video of Mary earlier. I don't know if you caught that. They don't look like they've slept too much. Do we have have you seen anything about them sleeping?
I haven't.
No, I haven't either.
Yeah, they just found, when you've been awake for that long, you start to get that like almost like you sound like you're sick. Mary had a little bit of that because I don't know how much they've slept, and if they've it seems like it would have been very little.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that could come back to haunt them if they have not been. Um, the third place team, and this is not a surprise to me, is Team Disability. And we talked the other day, we're going to have our own like American podium because sorry, everybody else, this is just what we do here. So like the third place team in our American podium right now is Team Disability. They've got to be really excited about where they are at because they have like a 2.5 hour lead over the fourth place American team, which is Checkpoint Zero. Yeah, I know Andrea is there. I'm sure she hates that she is not racing. I know she hates it. But she's been bringing us some awesome videos from Team Disability. If you're not following their Facebook page, make sure you're following Disability's Facebook page to get updates from Andrea on the team because she's bringing, that whole team. But her replacement is Nick Herf, who did the World Championships last year and is just a really strong guy. So, like, with Caitlin, David, Chip, and Nick, that is a really strong team.
They put together a fantastic team this year, and good on them. I mean, they've done, I think this is Chip's 5th international race this year. And I mean, they put in the work. They should be third place, I think, with the US teams. They're due for like a good American win.
Well, and I think, it's just a testament to the time and energy that they have put into being, a really strong American team and just, continuing to just kind of push the envelope, as far as these races. And it's really showing in this race. They're having a really solid race. I don't know what their estimates are. I'm hoping that maybe we can get Andrew to jump on one of these calls that we're going to have, which forget all this. I know you guys have seen our post about how many times we're going to be on here. We're bringing it to you here live tonight, but we're also going to bring it to you Tuesday night and then again Friday night. And we may do another one if there are still teams out on the course over the weekend, next weekend, because they have until Monday, I think, to finish the race. Is that right? It was 10 days. It started on Friday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But right now we are committed to being here tonight, Tuesday night, and Friday night.
Details. Those are minor details.
Yeah. It's funny every time that Brian Gatens does a live video, he has to give the date and time because it's all Groundhog's Day when you're out there. And I'm sure it's even harder for him than actually racing. Because when you're racing, you're only thinking one thing, and that's move forward.
Well, I actually was texting with him earlier this afternoon, and he said that very thing. He was like, it would be easier to be racing. You know,
Yeah.
he's volunteering. And speaking of which, you got to give props to these all those volunteers that are out there, Andrea and everybody else that's taken the time to spend not just 10 days because they're on course for 10 days, the days before, the days after. That's a lot of commitment, and they're just as tired, if not more tired, than some of these racers by the end of it. It's, I've raced expedition and I've volunteered expedition, and yeah, I think I have to agree with Gatens. And I may have said this a couple times last year at Endless. Next time I'm racing, because it is in a way so much easier.
Well, I think, I mean, those of us that are like glued to our phones and watching the trackers during these kind of races, I can just imagine being there and like all the things that you have to do to keep up and get ahead of where your racers are and like be prepared for them because like especially if you're there like with your team and you want to like provide them moral support, like you don't want to like get there after they get there because that is a huge boost. Like I know like even at Endless this year, every time I came into a transition that you were at, like it was a boost for me because I'm like, yes, I have somebody I know and like
You
uh
just had somebody else to talk to that or different to talk to that wasn't James. That's all.
this is true. Listen, James and I became fast friends. And I'm sure he was tired of talking to me probably more than I was tired of talking. Um, but we had a great time, and the the other teams and the American teams that are racing here are some very accomplished teams, right?
Mm.
Checkpoint Zero's in fourth place, no complaints. I mean, they are a very strong and very seasoned team that is having a really good race too. They're at TA5 right now, they were at TA5. I think they might have just gotten to the first checkpoint of that long trek.
Yep.
Um, and then and I want to kind of tell a funny story. This year at Endless, um, James and I were hiking on this long trek section, and I was hiking along with no complaints. And Brenda Carlson and Lewis and their team, and you get kind of starstruck when you're like racing around teams that you have seen race in all of these big expedition races. I mean, there was a point in this last race where I did a video with Mark Latanzi, and I was like, I'm literally riding next to Mark Latanzi in an expedition race. Like, how freaking cool is this? But so we're hiking through this section, and we're going at the same pace as them, and I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. And we go to cross this little creek, and I go from like one rock to another, and because my ankle is fused, it didn't bend the way that it should, and I ate shit so hard right on the rocks, and everybody goes, ooh. And I was like, crap, I did this right in front of no complaints. Like, what the heck is going on? And then I was like, no, I'm good. And then, later I was like, oh, that really hurt. And I didn't want them to know it. So Doug, if you're watching this, I was really hurt when that happened, but I didn't want
Doug is such a nice guy, though.
and he is. It was just embarrassing. So I'll throw that out there. And I probably shouldn't have told that on, the World Wide Web, but it's out there.
Well, we do.
Right.
We overshare sometimes.
Yes. But then right behind them is Rootstock. And we talked about the United States Adventure Racing National Championship, and Britt Mason was on the third place team with the Women of AR team that just placed third at Nationals 2 weeks ago. And she's joined by Mike Garrison, Jason, and Mark Latanzi. So that is a super strong team. And they are also up on that trek now as well and headed towards the first CP of that trek. I'm wondering if there's some sort of injury issue or maybe stomach issues that is kind of holding them back, because they're a little bit further back than I think we have anticipated at this point in the race.
Yeah, I've thought that a couple times. just a little surprised, especially with the amount of biking course. Britt Mason is like the mountain biking extraordinaire. Um, but she's one of four, right? So you've gotta stay with your team. So yeah, I've kind of wondered a little bit. I saw a video earlier today. They looked good though in that video. So who knows? Maybe they're just racing their race, and it's a big course, and they're just pacing themselves. They maybe want to see all of the course or as much of it as possible, and they're just doing their thing and having a good time.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, at this point in the race, we're what, 2.5 days in, and racers are really just pushing themselves and trying to move forward. The race course is going to be open for 10 days. I don't think is any risk of being short course for these teams. There are some teams that may eventually get short coursed. Because they're kind of a little bit behind the rest of them. But the other three mixed U.S. teams are Vertical Bay AR, Orienteering Utah, and CrossFit Fort Vancouver, which this is like home turf for them. I mean, it's like literally right across the border for them. So I'm sure they're enjoying being in their element and enjoying the course. I'm hearing from my producer that we may have a Google Street View of that section that we talked about earlier from CP 26 to 27. So I think we're going to try to go to that and kind of
bring it up on the tracker here first, and then we'll cut over.
Okay. And what are you hearing, Jeff?
So it's this section of road that we're talking about again, and I didn't read the rules as carefully, I think, as the competitors would have, but they should probably maybe get another reading just to see if that's copacetic, because I don't know that there was a defined limit for how far they had to be from the road, and there is a fence, so I don't know if they had to maybe just be on the other side of the fence. But let's take a look at that real quick.
Because the thing that I read earlier, it said south, like teammates must cross 500 feet south of that point, blah, blah, blah. If you encounter the irrigation land along the route, travel north along the fence line to the highway crossing point. So, I mean, the way I first read the first part of that, it says teams must not travel along Highway 97 between 24 and 500 meters north of CP 27. So the way I read that is you're not allowed to be even anywhere near that road. And I think there was a past race. It might have been last year, Jeff. We were talking about, remember there was that railway that went through the World Championship, and or no, sorry, it may have been Expedition Alaska that we were talking about this. Mm-hmm. And there was a railway that went in, and one of the teams found a parallel dirt road that looked like they were literally like right on the thing. But if you zoomed in close enough, you could actually see there was a dirt road right next to it. I mean, listen, adventure racing is all about pushing the rules limit, but also understanding that an interpretation could come down to the race referees getting together and deciding that what you did was not kosher.
There is a mention I have the route book pulled up. There is a mention in the route book that teams must cross Highway 97 at this point, 500 meters north.
Okay.
So there's that distinction as well, which if they're being told that they aren't allowed to travel until 500 meters north and they must cross at 500 meters north, I would say,
listen, it's just us being Monday morning quarterbacks, right? Like, yeah. We're looking at things, and I saw another post about this, and I just thought it was a good point of discussion. And, we're here to nitpick things and, kind of see if people have made navigation errors or things like that we can point out. And in this kind of expedition race where it's so long, most of these races are not really big orienteering races, right? Like I think they're going to come up to a couple of sections where orienteering is going to come into play, but the rest of the route is more about getting from point to point. And I think there was a video from Team Disability where Caitlin was talking about how in her and Nick's opinion, this route book really laid out the route that you should be taking in a lot of these things. I didn't, and Mary, you and I talked about this. We didn't read it that way.
No, I mean, I definitely see her point. Like in some of the biking sections, it's very descriptive about what roads they want you to take, where a lot of times it's like every other adventure race. CP to CP, get there how they get there, unless there's the off limits road. But in this case, even around off limits roads, they were very like, take this road to this fire road to this, which I don't, is that normal for Expedition Canada? Because I don't know.
I don't know either. I think, I think racers are doing their best, and I haven't really seen a lot of bobbles. There was one that I think AR Live coverage pointed out where there was a team that is now in the transition area for the paddle that may have started down the paddle and then doubled back. So maybe they thought to themselves, there's no way that I am going to make the cutoffs, and I would rather go back and do what 4 Hour Fuel is doing, which is go back and get a good night's sleep. And it may have been, let's see who that was. I'm going to try to pull it up. And
That Team 7 is the only other team in TA right now. It looks like Team 10. Who's Team 10? Team 10 chose to sleep on the water tonight, apparently, because they took off.
Well, yeah, and look, Team 27, they have taken off and decided the same thing. Black Hill, Salomon Sunto, they have decided that they want a cold night's sleep along the river with some grizzly bears. And
they're like, hey, when are we going to get to sleep on the side of a river with bears again? Let's do it.
Hey, listen, I mean, that's where some of these choices, are going to really come into play. They've got an hour and a half left. They could probably make it 3/4 of the way down, which, they did say that there was 4 different points that teams could pull off and camp on, but you can't be on the water. So if they see that tracker on the water after that point, I mean, I don't know what the penalty is. I don't know if you get a little bit of a grace period to get to that next docking station,
I'm sure they probably have to, right? Like
you would think, but I'll tell you, paddling, I mean, we were at Endless this year, and James and I, we got onto that paddle that had the class 1s and 2s and whatever those were. And the last, probably 2 miles of that was nothing but little rapid sections that you were supposed to hit. And it started getting dark, and we had accidentally put our headlamps in our packs that were in the pack raft.
Oh no.
And so we're like, well, we're just winging it. And we were going through the rapids hang on, if we get bucked out, we're getting bucked out. And I think we paddled up to the pullout, and it was dark. So I can't imagine doing the 2s and 3s in the dark.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, there have been 2 expedition races where they did not have a dark zone, and it was a class 2 plus river, no dark zone. They were encouraging teams not to go, but they weren't stopping teams. And they used that same river in 2 different versions of their expedition race, and both years I got stopped at the same spot. And both years I was like, we're not doing that. There's no way. I'm gonna sleep here where we have coverage and we have bathrooms and we have, yeah, no. It's just, I don't know. Like, adventure racing is a risk in itself, right? And we do it for the adventure and for taking a risk and for pushing our bodies and for finding a new version of ourselves. But sometimes I'm like, that's not worth it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this dark zone plays out for the rest of the field, how the lack of sleep for the top teams or the teams that got sleep, how that's going to impact the front of this field. We're trying to bring you about an hour live dot watching. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about, and we could talk about stuff all night. But I think we're probably going to wrap this up for tonight. With the dark zone approaching, we're going to go hit our own dark zone. But I hope that you all enjoyed our dot watching. If you have comments or questions or things or teams that you want us to talk about and highlight on our show, leave a message here on the YouTube channel or on Facebook. Make sure that you're following AR.watch, Adventure Racing Insider, and the ARWS website. And for all of the action, we're going to continue to bring you things that we think are important. Whether or not they are or not, you'll have to decide.
You might learn some things about us that you maybe didn't care to.
Yeah, that's all right. Like that's part of the process. And hopefully our next show, it's really hard to coordinate with, Starlinks and everything that they're doing out there, but we're going to try to bring you some word from the race course next show on Tuesday night, either from Andrea Anderson from Team This Ability, Wayne Leake, one of our race referees, or Mr. Dark Zone himself, Brian Gatens. Hey, we might even try to get Heidi on the show. We're going to try to bring you some good content. I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. And again, if you have any questions or comments, make sure that you leave them on here. Mary, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having me. I love doing it.
Well, from your American Adventure Racing dot watching crew, Jeff, Mary, and myself, thank you guys. Make sure that you have a good evening, and we'll see you on Tuesday night.